So, yes, so that's what happened. I don't know where the last video cut off. So hopefully it picked back up. I was just talking about how Zeke and Gordon are in the Le'Veon, they're in the Le'Veon Bell situation, which is what's scaring everybody. But let's talk about that. So moving on. So with Gordon, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think I remember when he was out last season and Austin Eckler was running for him, and everyone's like, Austin Eckler, listen, they lost those games. Austin Eckler did not perform like he performed because I know I had him. And he did not perform like Melvin Gordon in those games, okay? So he's not going to replace Melvin Gordon. Now, Justin Jackson, he did pretty good. But again, not Melvin Gordon level. And it's fine to play them for 1 or 2 games while Melvin's out with an injury. But if he sits out, I think they will see how much that they need him and how it will be a lost season without him. And I think they do lose their opening 2 games. The exact same thing is true with the Cowboys. I don't think that Pollard is Connor, is James Conner. They have this guy Jackson. They also have a Jackson that I thought did pretty good, but he isn't a Connor. I think a Connor was it's a demonstration of what amazing talent evaluators they are in Pittsburgh. I mean, they went from Mike Wallace to Antonio Brown to Juju Smith-Schuster. That's pretty amazing. And now they have Le'Veon Bell, and then they went right to James Conner, another amazing guy who did an amazing job. So they're doing, they're amazing talent evaluators up there that have managed to find incredible diamonds in the rough. And not that all these guys aren't professionals, but I mean, I don't see it in the backups in Dallas. And I mean, Austin Eckler is good when he's not the RB1. And in terms of fantasy, they will absolutely be splitting share Jackson and Eckler as much as any committee. And so neither one of them, I think, you won't know which one's going to have the big day one week to the other. So I think Gordon and Zeke are both positioned, even if they're because we know what's behind them. We know what they got. Even if this goes through the first 1 or 2 games, they will, in fact, I think, play this season. I think absolutely they'll be back this season. So that being said, if Zeke falls because people are worried about it, if Gordon falls because people are worried about it, grab one of them. And boy, I'll tell you what, if Zeke were to fall to 8, I would definitely take him. And there's no way not to. You have to. They're too talented. And again, I don't think the Bell situation like that. I think that was a one-time thing last year with them. I don't think it's a thing that you're going to see happen with either of these 2 organizations. I think these 2 would play out closer to the Emmitt Smith situation back in 94, 95, something like that. Now, you get past those guys, and now you get into the middling guys. Some of the I'm really interested to see what Mark Ingram does working out of the backfield in Baltimore, because obviously everyone's like, oh, Lamar Jackson, he's going to run so much. But they are a run team. That's what they like to do. And I don't think that Lamar Jackson's going to run so much that Mark Ingram isn't still going to have a big season. I toyed with this draft strategy of going wide receiver 1 in the first 2 rounds. And doing that still left me with really good running back options in rounds 3 and 4. Mark Ingram, I think, is going to have a great season. I don't think, they have Kenneth Dixon, they got Gus Edwards, but I think once Mark Ingram starts toting the rock, I don't think that's going to be a committee. I think it's going to be the Mark Ingram show. And I think he's going to get a lot of little outlet side passes, little up the side of the field passes. I think he's going to get a ton of those from Lamar Jackson. It's almost going to be like a long form option style. Lamar's going to start rolling. Defense have to respect that. Mark Ingram slips out a little bit, and boom, right up the sideline. I think Mark Ingram is going to have a great season. Okay, as I said earlier, last year I predicted that the sophomore slump was going to bite Leonard Fournette in the ass, and it did. And let me tell you this, everyone is still smarting over that so bad. They're calling him trash. They're like, you're an idiot for drafting. Let me tell you something. Now, he is a bit injury prone. And so I would never draft him as my RB1, which is what most people drafted him as last year. But he is my rebound candidate of the year for running backs. Leonard Fournette, I think he's going to actually have a ballsy season, and I'll tell you why. Because of Nick Foles. I think the whole team, last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they beat the Patriots in like week 2, and then they just quit. It's like they had their Super Bowl. They're like, we did it. Done. Go home, guys. And it became, they had to work so hard to carry Bortles to the AFC Championship game that the year before, only to see him lose it because he sucks. I just think they just didn't have it in them to carry him for a whole nother season. And they saw that it was going to be more of the same. And I think this year, with Nick Foles, a guy who just won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, a guy who's proven his pedigree as a winner, I think they're going to be ecstatic and energetic. And I think that the defense is going to give them lots of opportunities to have the ball. And I think running the ball is going to help them control the clock and rest that defense. I think that Fournette has a huge rebound year. I'm investing in Leonard Fournette. You do what you want. You might consider him trash, but I'll see you back here later later in this season. We'll see who's right. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I like him for this season. I like him as a big-time bounce-back candidate. And listen, if for some reason people like Gurley slip to the second or third round, grab him. Do not let him get past you. Let's talk about James Conner, because as I've said, it'll be a sophomore season, so I believe that, there's always 1 to 2, sometimes 3 running backs who slump in their sophomore year. And I've told you why. I've explained my little stupid theory before, and I feel like a lot of it has to do, and I'll tell you again, with the fact that, running backs, after that first season, they tend to it's that first summer of being rich, of having a ton of money and being able to buy your family stuff and have barbecues and buy a house for your mom and not have to worry about grades, and you want to enjoy being rich for the first time in your life for a lot of these guys. And I get it, and the reason I say this is because that's what I would do. I get it. I want to buy a house for my mom. I would be, yeah, woo. And that's why Leonard Fournette showed up 20 pounds lighter, because he wasn't in the gym. He was sitting by the pool. He could finally afford to sit by the pool and not worry about things. And so I get that. And so I think that's what contributes to a lot of second-year runners to having that downturn, because I don't think they work as hard as they were working when they were trying to get it. Then they got it, and I feel like they just ease off the gas. Which, I get it. That's what I would do if that happened to me. But James Conner, he's not that guy. He ain't that guy. There ain't no sophomore slump for James Conner, okay? James Conner, he went through that cancer thing. He had to battle back from cancer. So he knows how precious this is. Not that the other guys don't, but I think it's that much more precious to him, especially now that Le'Veon Bell, that specter's gone. That's out of the way. It's his time to shine. It's his team. It's his turn. And I think he takes full advantage. If you can grab James Conner in the second, third, fourth round, if not, actually, I guess he's going a lot earlier in a lot of rounds. Just like Nick Chubb. Let's talk about Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, to be honest, he's put in that top tier first round guys. And I got to tell you, Nick Chubb is my candidate for sophomore slump. I just feel like all the hype, just all the partying, all the excitement. I don't know. I think if anybody might be that guy, I got a Nick Chubb vibe. I don't have a Chubb for Chubb this season. I think he could be the guy that slumps, not James Conner. Now, let's talk about Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay, for some reason, again on Yahoo, very far down. He's down in the 40s, What did he do wrong? I know he got injured at the end of last season, but he's back, baby. He's back. And I know there's a lot of, Royce Freeman hype, okay? And he did have one good run in the first preseason game. I'm going to have to see a little bit more, though, because the rest of his runs looked like what we saw last year, whereas Philip Lindsay looked spectacular again. So I'm not buying the Royce Freeman hype. I didn't buy it last year. I don't buy it this year. I think we're still very much looking at a Philip Lindsay team. And I like this team with Joe Flacco. I think Joe Flacco brings experience, talent, arm strength. I think he's going to open things up down the field. I think there's going to be some opportunities. Although I'll tell you what, they had what's his name, that the rookie play, and he looked real good. I forgot his name, but he may, by the end of the season, if they're not winning, you're going to see him come in there and you're going to see him do real good things. So get Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay's there in the 4th round, grab 5th round. Don't let him slip. Don't sleep on Philip Lindsay this season if he's available in your league. Kenyon Drake, Kellen Balazs. Listen, Kellen Balazs, talk about value. Let's talk about value RBs now. Value RBs, Kellen Balazs, obviously now Kenyon Drake's in a boot. And so if you drafted Drake, you need to go get Kellen Balazs right now. Kellen Balazs is going to be a sneaky pick down there. He's going to be still hanging around in 9, 10. He's going to be down there and get down. You know what? Get him. Because Drake now, it's a foot injury. Foot injuries for running backs, I don't know. That could linger. I think Kellen Balazs, value RB now. So my value RBs are Mark Ingram, Philip Lindsay, Sony Michel. Despite they were worried about the committee last year. They drafted a running back. Sony Michel. You know what? Talent wins. And I think even though, Bill Belichick has shown a propensity to absolutely no favoritism, it doesn't change the fact that I think that Sony Michel is still going to, just by virtue of being amazing, I think is going to still be a fantastic value. Tevin Coleman out down there in San Francisco. Jerick McKinnon is still, he's all... Dude, don't draft Jerick McKinnon. That guy, he's a human ambulance. Let's talk about Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's one of those guys up there at the end of the first, top of the second type guy. And I got to tell you, I like Joe Mixon this season. I like Joe Mixon. I did not like him last season, but I do like him this season. I think Joe Mixon's gonna ball out. He's my breakout. My breakout candidates are Joe Mixon and a guy I wasn't buying the hype on until I saw him run, David Montgomery. I think if you're a Tariq Cohen guy, I don't know how this David Montgomery looks fantastic. If I owned Tariq Cohen, I'd be worried right now. I would definitely get David Montgomery. But Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman. We didn't talk about him. A lot of people, and David Johnson. Sorry, these are top-end guys, obviously, that I just completely forgot to mention. But let's talk about Devontae Freeman. Obviously, Tevin Coleman's gone. So that's, but really, Tevin Coleman wasn't that much of a threat to him when he was healthy, and the problem has been staying on the field. And if you look at it, Devontae Freeman had that first season where he was like Jay Ajayi, just unstoppable. And David Johnson too. But then every season since then has been kind of a disappointment. And people are like, this is the year that Devontae Freeman's back. I don't know. I'm gonna take a wait and see on Devontae Freeman. I'm actually more optimistic about Tevin Coleman and his chances down there in San Francisco. So I'm not huge on Devontae Freeman. So here are my candidates for second-year bust. Nick Chubb, I already mentioned. Damian Williams. I know a lot of people are super excited about Damian Williams down there in Kansas City. I don't know. I'm gonna have to see a little bit more out of him. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. And again, a possible Saquon Barkley. I don't think so. I just think he might not have such an amazing year that everyone thinks he's going to have, simply because stacked boxes up his ass all season long. Now, here are the running backs I just don't trust. Dalvin Cook. The guy just have the stretcher ready. David Johnson. Again, he had that one spectacular season. And what happened last season? He was healthy last season. And I know that team fell apart and they changed coordinators, everything was bad, but he didn't do shit. I don't know. I haven't seen anything to make me believe Dave. Now, everyone's talking about that new offensive scheme. And listen, if he falls to you in the second round for some reason, I think somebody's going to go high for him in the first round. I don't think he's worth a first rounder. I really don't. Second round, RB2, yes. RB1, no. Aaron Jones, another guy, I'm going to have to see it. I'm going to have to see you stay on the field, sir, before I believe it, especially with this new offense. Matt LaFleur, nobody knows what kind of usage. Nobody knows if it's going to be a committee. I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it just yet. Now, other guy, Chris Carson. Chris Carson. Again, Penny, I got to tell you, Rashad Penny looked garbage last season. He looked real good in the first preseason game this year. I think Carson's got some things to worry about with Rashad Penny. I think Rashad Penny's going to possibly put his stamp on this team this season. You might want to look out for Rashad Penny. If you're looking for a late round RB, he might be a late round flyer you want to take. Kerryon Johnson, another guy flashing all that potential, but has had trouble staying on the field. I don't trust you just yet. For me, Kerryon Johnson this season is what Joe Mixon was to me last season. And as I already said, Damian Williams, I'm not buying it just yet. And Carlos Hyde just has a way of coming out of nowhere and stealing reps. We'll see how this thing plays out. My sleepers. Here are the sleepers, guys. Darius Geis. Only because phenomenal talent. Adrian Peterson, old as fuck. And I used to love Adrian Peterson, but just his lack of explosiveness it's like watching him. I think if Darius Geis starts to get off the ball pretty well, I could see him starting to take over. But again, injury issues, we'll see what we're going here. I wouldn't be surprised if he started to take over and then in the first game as the starter got injured and left the field. Don't be surprised if that happens. Jordan Howard up there in Philly. Listen, Philly, I know they got Miles, whatever, and all these different people, and they're all over the place. But let me tell you something. Jordan Howard, you get him going, and you might really have something. And Doug Peterson, he comes from the Andy Reid school, and those guys believe in featured backs. And so I when they were in Philly, it was Shady McCoy. If they realize what they've got in Jordan Howard, once they get him going, and the fact that he needs to stay in the game and consistency in order to win, I could see Jordan Howard actually having a great season for Philly. Carlos Hyde in Kansas City. Again, my lack of true belief in Damian Williams is what leads me to think that Carlos Hyde might wind up actually having a fairly decent season. Kareem Hunt. Listen, Kareem Hunt, you get this guy, obviously people are going to be avoiding him because he's missing 8 games. But listen, get him in 7 or 8. Don't wait for him to fall down a little bit further because he might not. People are aware of him. They are going to be trying to get him, especially if they already have Nick Chubb. So don't wait on him. Try and get him a little bit earlier. Make sure, because he's going to come in handy down the stretch for sure, especially if Nick Chubb turns out to be my bust. They're just going to be waiting for Kareem Hunt to be available in week 9 if Nick Chubb isn't pulling his weight. And again, he's my candidate for bust this year. I don't know what makes me say that, but I'm saying it. That's just how I feel. Okay, so that is the running backs. Woo! That was a lot. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a break right here. This is going to be part 1 of my pre-draft fantasy football harsh reality podcast. So today we just covered the RBs, and maybe later today we'll do the wide receivers. So we'll see how it goes. But this has been part one. Don't forget, come see us at Oxnard this Sunday night with Adam Rank from NFL Fantasy Live taking your questions. Ask him these things that I'm saying. Ask him and see what the guru has to say about it. Because that guy knows. He talked about a deep dive. Whew. I mean, you think you know it until you're around guys like that really, really know it. And then you're just like, yeah, no, I don't know what I think I know. All right, and so we'll be doing part two with wide receivers, and we may also, and maybe even we'll go into tight ends, defenses, get all that out in the next episode of Fantasy Football Harsh Reality.